I'm Brian Nelson, Elder of the Jaara people of Central Victoria. On behalf of my people, I'd like to welcome you to my country, Jaara country. My great-great-grandfather's name was Harry Gaurkom Kurkom Nelson. The white people called him Nelson, after the English hero Horatio Nelson. Gaurkom's son, my great-grandfather's name was Henry Harmony Nelson. We Nelsons are still here living on country. This will be an introduction to Jaara country, my country. My mate Jerry Gill has been doing some research into Jaara history, and we will tell the story together.
I teach a course on landscape and Indigenous history at La Trobe University, Bendigo. Over the years I've learnt a lot about this country from Uncle Brian, and from him we can learn to see just how the traditional people, the old people, lived before we Europeans invaded and occupied his country. The Jaara people weren't swept aside by the tide of history. They're still here, living on country, maintaining their connection with their traditions, and they are generous enough to share this knowledge with us.
Mount Tarrengower sits in the centre of Jaara country in central Victoria. The low mountain ranges on the horizon to the east, south and west are the source of the Loddon and Avoca rivers and their tributary creeks. These ranges form the approximate boundaries of Jaara country. The rivers and creeks which flow down from these hills provided for the Indigenous people and the animals they hunted. They camped along their banks. We can still find their fireplaces and middens there. To the north, the Loddon and Avoca flow out into the vast flat plains of northern Victoria, and Jaara territory ends out on that horizon where the first big shallow inland lakes appear: Bull Oak, Marmal and Bort. The Jaara people were speakers of the Dja Dja Wurrung language and were made up of 24 clans, each with their own distinctive territory. This landscape and the Jaara clans and their territories were all created in the Dreamtime by Bunjil, the wedge-tailed eagle. In the old songs he's addressed as Bunjil, great father of our people. The other significant ancestor being was Wa, the crow. In the Dreamtime, Bunjil ruled over the original mountain. He argued with Wa and banished him, but the clever Wa discovered fire and returned with it and set fire to the mountain. And out of this massive destruction, all the hills, valleys, plains and rivers were formed. And when Bunjil created men and women, he formed them into clans and gave them their territories and the rules they had to live by. Each clan had either Bunjil or Wa as their totem. 40,000 years or more of Indigenous history was shattered in the late 1830s by the invasion and occupation of the country by Europeans from Great Britain. They came to establish sheep stations on the great grasslands. Kangaroo grass up to the horses' bellies, they said. Within 10 years, sheep stations and shepherds' huts were strung out along every river and creek, about 800 of them. With the invasion came disease, massacres, starvation and despair. Within 20 years, the Aboriginal population of Victoria fell from 15,000 to less than 2,500. The European population rose from a few hundred to over 300,000. There were 6 million sheep and 500,000 cattle. But in spite of this devastation and destruction, the Jaara people are still here and can show us their ancestral landscape and tell us their history. In many places there are scar trees where bark was cut away for canoes, coolamon dishes and for making shelters.
This is a scar on a box tree of a canoe. Down the gully in front of me, in flood times, the reeds and other animals, birds' eggs and nests and swans and ducks, were plenty of food for my people.
Here and there, often close to sacred places, are rock wells chipped and ground into solid rock. This one is about 45 centimetres deep. This well, a splendid one, has 4 openings to one deep chamber. Of all the things in the landscape, it's a special privilege to be shown and told about some of the sacred places, which are of immense importance to the Jaara people.
I'm standing here today along what is known as the Carisbrook stone arrangement, Aboriginal stone arrangement, and it is believed by Aboriginal people that it's a men's initiation site. And these rocks placed next to the other creates a shape of a boomerang, and this is very significant to my people during initiation. For boys to men, warriors, neighbouring and friendly groups were invited to bring their young people to this site as well. It gives us an idea how valued this site is. We haven't come across another one in Victoria, so to my people this is a very significant site. It gives you a strange bit of a feeling walking along it, near it, and just picturing in your mind what could have taken place. Makes you shiver sometimes.
We can be taken to places which are important in Jaara history. After being forced from their land, they were moved to the Loddon Aboriginal Protectorate at a place called Lane Barramul, home in the Emu, next to the volcanic hill called Lalgambuk. Here the Jaara were encouraged to become farmers and adopt Christianity. Their numbers continued to fall, and in the 1850s they were moved to other protectorates off their country, or they were dispersed onto farms or into the goldfields. The resilient Jaara people have returned, living on country, building on their traditions. In 2004, under the leadership of Uncle Brian Nelson and the elders, the Jaara people and guests from their neighbouring tribes held a Tanderum, freedom of the bush ceremony, to celebrate their culture and generously welcome their non-Indigenous friends to share in the country and learn about their culture. They revived a ceremony not performed for 161 years, bringing the generations together and strengthening community, building reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people.
Ladies and gentlemen, it makes me extremely proud to be here tonight with such fantastic cousin neighbours. That's a good way of putting it. I hope you enjoyed what you've seen tonight. It's been fantastic for us to be joined in and mixed with it and doing it, and I think this won't be the last time we'll do it.